Yeah, I'm Toby, I'm an addict. I like that reading. I was looking for some inspiration to open my mouth because I'm terrified. And it says about being open to what your mind and your body's telling you. And I suppose at nearly 4 years clean and sober, I'm just starting to get to understand what that means. In my body I feel sick. And I suffer with these migraines, and I've got one, and it hasn't gone away. So I kind of feel like I'm tripping out. And this is like a mausoleum or something in here. It's really like a tomb or something. So you'll have to bear with me if I run out, and that's because I need to throw up. But see, the thing is, I've been around for a little while, but this gets scarier and scarier and scarier to do. And I always say that, and I think the reason it's because life has become very valuable to me, and everything in it, and my perception has changed over the years, and it's all because of the 12 steps. It's all because I came to CA a little while ago, and my life changed beyond my wildest dreams, as you hear people say. So I guess I'll talk about me a little bit, which is all right. I don't mind. I was born to a nice working class family in a little village, idyllic village life. Went to a Christian school. I had 2 brothers, they was all right. My mum and dad loved me, my dad worked hard. Never went without, and yeah, you know, I was born into a family where we didn't think there was a problem. But I swear I've had this illness since I can remember. As a kid I was awkward. Really, really frightened, like I am now, but for absolutely no reason. And I was quite withdrawn, quite shy, and I was quite a precious kid. You know, I went out of my way to make people like me. I didn't want teachers to tell me off. I didn't want my friends' parents to tell me off. It was like if somebody was to tell me off, it was like I would crack and splinter like a piece of ice. You know, I was like emotionally fragile. And I suppose when I got to secondary school, it kind of got worse and it turned inwards. And you know that self-centeredness that we talk about? Well, that was me, Mr. Self-centeredness. And I couldn't, it was like if I was walking through the corridor, it was like the whole school was watching me walk. And I got a funny walk anyway, but I felt in my mind that they were observing all of my terrible details. And so awkward, self-centered, and it made me very selfish, made me very angry. I was a very angry kid, but I kind of turned it inwards, and yeah, didn't enjoy school very much. But you know, I started drinking. I picked up a drink, an alcoholic drink. I think my first can of alcoholic drink was woodpecker cider. Does anyone remember woodpecker cider? It's got about 2% in it if you're lucky. But it did something. It changed the way I felt. When I had a can of that, I didn't feel that awkward, gonna break, gonna shatter. Just felt something. And from that very first can, I had to have another one. That was there, you know, from the word go. And I was about 12 years old or something. And but after that, I drank to blackout. Whenever me and my pals would get some beers, I would always be blackout. And that never really changed. I never learned to drink properly. I'm not an alcoholic, but I did become addicted to alcohol in my 20s. And I found, I suppose, I went to art school when I was 17, and I started to experiment with drugs. And I smoked cannabis before that, but suddenly I learned how to smoke it properly. And that did what the woodpecker cider did for me years before. It made me feel like I wasn't separated from you, and it gave me like self-esteem, and just made me feel all right. But it didn't last very long. It was amazing, it worked, but then it stopped working, and I'd started experimenting with other drugs, and I felt like my mind was just opening up, and it was like the solution to me, my problems, for me, was a chemical, and I think I found the drug of my choice in opiates, benzodiazepines, and and I kind of burnt out really quick, I suppose. My first son was born when I was 22, and I tried desperately to stay. Well, no, I didn't try to stay clean. I had 9 months basically to use as much as I could, and then quit when he was born. And I thought him being born would fix me. I thought that's all I need. It's just growing up. And I did manage it for a little while. For about 3 months. I remember the first time my son smiled at me, and my heart broke. Fell in love. Just fell in love with this little thing here. And I'd been doing all right, but a voice said, "You're not going to be able to do it. You can't do this. You're not going to be able to survive it. What you need is to change how you feel straight away." And I did. And by the time my second son was born 18 months later, I was in a homeless shelter in Salisbury, in the blackest of depression, and not knowing why I was there. I had to leave the family home because I became a danger to the kids, danger to myself, and the kids' mum said, "You've got to go." And I kind of agreed. All right, I'll go. And as soon as I'm gone, like this resentment that we talk about, everything was her fault. And I remember I had a period of time in my life where I would write in these journals. They're all tear-stained journals, from self-pity, pouring out on these pages. But, so I ended up in a shelter. My using wasn't very successful. And I managed to get to treatment. I got sort of picked up and rescued and went to a fancy place in Wiltshire. And then I went off to Weymouth, and I spent about 11 months all in all in treatment, and I thought it was a success. But what I'd really been doing was focusing on my body, going up to the gym. I developed quite a good, if you call like muscles recovery. My recovery was all right. I thought that was where it was at. Yeah, I'm doing all right, And I left. Instead of going back to Salisbury to be with my sons, try and patch things up, selfishness, nothing had changed, just a little bit of this. And I moved up to London with the girl I'd met in the detox. And I thought that was the right decision to make, because it's all about me, innit? I suffered enough. And as soon as I moved there, feeling, like all strong in ourselves and knowing everything I could know about myself, I found a pot of DFs, about 100 DFs, and I love DFs. And I didn't expect to see them. And I think it played on me for 24 hours, and then the next night I opened the lid and sniffed it, smelled that chemical, that nice chemical opiate. And of course I used them. And But I was in denial, see, because what I didn't want to do was go to the streets and use drugs. So I thought, well, I'm different now. So what I do is I put on as many illnesses as I can get, and I blag doctors. I became very, very good at blagging the doctors. I used to have these crutches and hobble past the surgery and hope that they would see me, feel sorry for me. So that when I go in, I can get the stuff that I want. And I was very good at it. I did that for about 3-4 years. I got everything I wanted. But then it was unmanageable. I couldn't maintain it. It's never enough. As soon as I picked up heroin, I lost the relationship, the flat, the nice job I had. My car had already been burnt out in my drive, and I end up in a caravan up in Gloucestershire somewhere, rattling on the floor. Nowhere to go, nobody wants me. Wondering how I got there, And so, I learned a little bit about recovery. I thought maybe I need to get to some meetings, so I went to another fellowship. And I'm not an alcoholic, so it's a wonder why it didn't work, but I think I got a few months. And I don't really know what happened, because everything was kind of all right. But I remember having a Valium, because I was a bit nervous about seeing this girl. I had the one Valium. And the next thing, and I know it sounds like I'm missing a few details out, but the next thing is I'm driving to Bournemouth from Gloucestershire, so an hour and a half each way, to get some methadone. And I'm doing it every single day. I think 100 ml would be enough. Next night, I'm there. And I end up living in the bloody woods. I end up homeless. I'm living in a wood. And I don't know how it happened. It's like that. What went wrong? I'm sure it was a good idea to come up here. So I kind of had this existence of living off nature for a while, and it wasn't good. It wasn't nice. It wasn't Bear Grylls or nothing. I had a methadone script, a Valium script. I had a telephone, which my mum would top up for me, and I ate squirrels for my dinner. Yeah, it's like, when I look back, poaching pheasants, eating squirrels, pigeons was my favourite, best tasted meat, but I wasn't clever enough to catch them. But, yeah. When I look back, it's like, did I have some kind of psychosis? I was taking downers. I didn't smoke crack or nothing. But I existed like that for about a year. And my mother said, Toby, you've got to come home. You're not well. And I'd be like, what's the matter? It's all right up here. This is all right. Don't worry about it. But eventually I did, though. I did. I kind of got the sense that if I come back to Bournemouth, I might be surrounded by people who are a bit healthier than the wildlife I was mingling with. And, yeah, I spent 9 months rattling, trying, using rattling on my mum's sofa. And I thought I'd kicked it. And then I thought what I needed is some Valium to get me to sleep. Just go to the crack house, just a couple of Valium, because I hadn't slept for a fortnight. And then it sets off the whole thing again. But that got me to where I needed to be. I ended up in my drop-in centre in Ringwood. And the guy there broke his anonymity. He said, listen, there's nothing I can do for you anymore. There's a meeting tonight, CA meeting, my home group in Ringwood. He says, phone this number, the guy's going to meet you there, and do it whilst I'm here so you don't, so you do it. And I did it. And I was off my head, and I kind of went along because it was something to do, a bit of change of scenery. But I'm telling you now, something changed from that very night. Walked into a CA meeting off my head, and all these men are bigger than me, and they're like, leaning over me, taking my number, giving me their number. Someone buys me a big book and says he's my sponsor, and writes these suggestions in the back of the big book, and I go away bewildered. Now there's a certain amount of magic in recovery, I swear there is, because when I woke up that morning, I picked up the big book, I read the suggestions, and I did them. I got on my knees and I prayed for a clean sober day. I read 3 pages of the big book, maybe even 3.5, and went to a meeting every day. And like, mood-wise, emotional-wise, I was still pretty, it took a long time. But I was doing that every single day, and 6 months passes. People were talking about this obsession. They've got an obsession to use. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I ain't got an obsession to use. And it dawned on me, 6 months ago, and I hadn't even thought about it. Something had taken a hold of me. I'd obviously started the steps. And the depression lifted after I made my first amends or two. I can't say that they were particularly profound amends. They were the simple ones to the mother, a few people. But I remember walking in the forest, different forest, new forest. Feeling like I'd come home and I didn't need to leave anymore. And the sun was shining. And it's that saying in the big book in there, like, sunlight of his spirit. You want to walk in the sunlight of his spirit. And I felt like I was walking in the sunlight of his spirit. And I've gotten this far. I've gotten to nearly, well, I'll be 4 years in October. Hasn't been an ideal recovery. In the beginning, I like to tell you just how good at it I am. I was very arrogant. I've learned a lot about my defects. It's all right turning up and doing this stuff, but behind closed doors, what am I doing? And I had hard lessons like that. How much time have I got, Michelle? 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Yeah. So I was doing. Part of my nightly routine was plenty of fish. Write my gratitude list on there. A big mistake for a man like me. I should have known by then that not women themselves, but my desire to retain women was a major problem. And people say, don't they, don't get in a relationship, perhaps, don't do this, but, you know, we've got to learn ourselves, haven't we? And, you know, and I got into a very sick relationship, which surprised me. How can I'm clean and sober. I'm in a very unsober relationship. And then it dawned on me yet again, another spiritual awakening, that I'd better ask my sponsor for help this time. I was over a year clean. It looks like I hadn't really engaged with my sponsor. This time I did. He referred to the big book on page 30 where it says we have to concede to ourselves that we're not like normal people, that we're alcoholic, that we're drug addicts. And that's when it kind of dawned on me that left to my own devices, I'm just defective, can't run the show, despite the fact that I want to. And I think I started to recover emotionally from that moment. So I suppose if we want to talk a little bit about step 11, my experience with step 11 has been quite profound. Last little while I've got a good life. I learnt some skills in recovery. I earn all right. I have a nice flat. I have a partner. I have a nice car. I have a van. It's full of tools. I'm trusted. I have a wonderful relationship with my sons. I pay for them. I do all this stuff that we're encouraged to do. And for the sake of my conscience, I do. But something happened, a thought dawned on me not so long ago. I'm not going to share it with you because it's very, very personal. But the decision was, I either take a risk here, not using, but in a life situation. I'm tempted to go and do this, and if I do that, I'm going to lose her, and all the other things I just said. I'd be ostracised in CA. I'm going to lose a lot of people, but the desire for it is like that obsession again for a bag of gear or a bottle of methadone or something. I couldn't, I was struggling with it. And during this struggle I saw, I asked God, what do you want me to do, God? And he said, I don't need to tell you what you need to do. And it was this moment, at 3.5 years clean, where I saw what I'm supposed to do with my life. And it was just a profound moment. This is what I really want. Despite the desire to go and do this over there, what I really want is my CA life. Don't want to lose that. And it was like another spiritual awakening. I saw my life for what it really was. Because I'm very good at the self-pity. I'm very good at the, oh, poor me. My perception is very easily turned backward. And, oh, this ain't quite good enough. The grass is greener. Don't like this car, I want that car. Don't like this meeting, I want to go to that meeting, etc., etc. And since that time, I think I've had a little bit of peace. What I do, I suppose, to attain that peace is I do quite a bit of service. I'm a district, I'm on the F&E committee, the PI committee, I sponsor, all this standard stuff. But what really matters is when I'm on my own and I can't bear my head racing, that's what I have to work on. And I have a patio. I have a patio in my flat, and it's got a huge garden, beautiful trees. It's shared, it's not all mine. But I open the patio doors at 5:30 in the morning. I sit there, quiet, just me, and I watch the foxes come in, and I watch the pigeons, and I'm watching the squirrels. And we're not quite at peace yet, me and the squirrels. But I'm there in a moment, and I see creation for what it is. Creation is beautiful to me, and I get this peace, and I pray, and I do some exercises, and I might read something, and I set about the day, how can I be of use to my fellows? And, emotional sobriety. But what? Emotional sobriety. I'm struggling with it at the moment because I've been so up, and for the last week I've been flat. Can't work out why, and it's when I question why. Didn't want to come here tonight. What am I going to say? But, I did, because it's what we do. And to be honest with you, I didn't drive myself here, I was kind of carried here. Anybody's new in the room, man, you just all the questions that you have, all the doubts that you might have, all the struggles you have, the defiance, just do what it says in the big book, do what your sponsor tells you, and have a little bit of faith, and it'll be good. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Toby. I'd like to remind everyone that we're going to have steering, so sharing time will come to an end at 10 to 9. But I'll now open the meeting up for